40 degrees below zero. No walls, no furnace, no synthetic insulation. Just open prairie, howling wind, and darkness that swallows everything. At that temperature, exposed skin freezes in under 2 minutes. Your body starts shutting down organs to protect your core. Your fingers go numb, then your feet, then your judgment. You have maybe an hour before the cold completely owns you. And yet, entire nations, families, elders, newborns, they didn't just survive nights like this. They did it for thousands of years. So what did they know that we've forgotten? The northern Great Plains is one of the most brutally unforgiving environments on the planet. Wind chill values regularly drop below minus 50 degrees Celsius in winter. There are no mountains to break the wind, no dense forests for shelter, just flat, open land that transforms into a frozen killing ground from November through March. Modern humans, with insulated homes, electric heat, and Gore-Tex jackets, still die in these conditions every single year. In 2021 alone, over 1,300 Americans died from hypothermia-related causes. We have every technological advantage imaginable, and we're still losing. The Great Plains winter doesn't negotiate. It doesn't warn you. It just takes. So how did the Lakota, the Blackfoot, the Comanche, and dozens of other Plains nations not only live on this landscape, but raise children on it, grow old on it, and build entire civilizations on it? The answer isn't one thing, it's a system. A layered, brilliantly engineered system built over centuries of brutal trial and error. And once you understand it, you'll never use the word primitive again. The teepee is the most misunderstood shelter in human history. Most people picture it as a fancy tent, something flimsy that people huddled inside while hoping for the best. That picture is completely wrong, dead wrong. A properly constructed teepee is one of the most thermally efficient portable shelters ever designed by any culture on Earth. The conical shape forces wind up and over the structure rather than against it, dramatically reducing heat loss and structural stress. The smoke hole at the top functions as a controlled ventilation system. It creates a natural convective updraft that draws cold air away from the living space while pulling smoke upward and out. The interior lining, called a dew cloth, created a dead airspace between itself and the outer hide cover. Dead air doesn't move. Air that doesn't move doesn't steal your body heat. Modern architects call this a thermal buffer zone. Passive house designers use the same principle today in high-end sustainable builds. Plains women were engineering it with buffalo hides 1,000 years ago. Think about that. A well-made teepee with a small fire inside could keep the interior 20 to 30 degrees warmer than the outside air, even in extreme cold. But here's what most people never ask. Where did the heat actually come from? The answer is stranger and more ingenious than you'd expect. Without the American bison, none of it works. Full stop. A single adult bison provides roughly 270 kilograms of meat. But the meat wasn't even the most critical part, not in winter. The hide was. A properly tanned and brain-cured buffalo robe is one of the warmest natural insulators ever recorded. The dense underfur of a winter bison coat traps microscopic pockets of air, functioning almost identically to modern down insulation. Women tanned hides using a technique that preserved the skin's natural oils, keeping it supple, breathable, and wind-resistant even at extreme temperatures. A sleeping person wrapped in 2 or 3 winter robes could maintain core body temperature through the night, even when the fire burned to embers. No electricity, no synthetic fill, nothing but an animal and the knowledge of how to use it. The fat, rendered bison tallow, wasn't just for cooking. It was worked into leather to waterproof moccasins. It was smeared on exposed skin as a barrier against frostbite and windburn. It was mixed with dried meat and berries to create pemmican, a calorie-dense, high-fat survival food that could sustain a person in deep cold for days without resupply. But here's the part that stops most people cold. The clothing these nations built wasn't just warm. It was more sophisticated than anything a European explorer was wearing. And it almost certainly saved more lives. The proof is in the stitching. Here's something that rarely gets said plainly. The multi-layer insulation system that modern outdoor brands sell for hundreds of dollars isn't modern. Plains nations were using the same principles long before European contact. A Blackfoot warrior in winter didn't wear one thick coat. He wore multiple fitted layers, a soft tanned base layer to manage moisture against the skin, a middle layer for insulation, and an outer layer of thick buffalo hide to break wind and shed snow. Moccasins were doubled. An inner soft-soled shoe packed with dried grass or bison hair for insulation, an outer hard-soled rawhide boot for the snow. The grass wasn't random. Specific species known to hold trapped air better than others were selected in summer, dried, and stored specifically for winter footwear. Children's clothing was engineered differently than adults. Tighter fits, more layers, designed around the physiological reality that small bodies lose heat faster. None of this was guesswork. It was empirical science, tested over generations of life and death, encoded not in books, but in the hands of the women who made it. But even the best clothing fails if you can't make fire. And on the open prairie, fire presented its own impossible problem. Wood doesn't grow on the open prairie. There are no trees. And yet, fire burned constantly in winter camps, through the night, through blizzards, through weeks of sustained cold. How? Buffalo chips, dried bison dung. It sounds primitive. It was anything but. Dried buffalo dung burns at a high, sustained temperature and produces significantly less smoke than green or wet wood. Plains families spent entire autumn months gathering chips, stacking them in massive quantities against the teepee base, where they served double duty as both fuel and additional insulation. Fire management inside the teepee was a specialized discipline in its own right. You didn't build a roaring fire. A raging fire overheats the space, consumes fuel in hours, and creates dangerous carbon monoxide buildup. A small, controlled flame, fed carefully, maintained through the night in rotation, was the goal. Women managed this, consistently, without error, because error meant death. And when a band broke camp to follow the herds, which happened constantly, skilled firekeepers could have a new fire burning inside a freshly erected teepee within minutes of arrival. Heat wasn't a comfort, it was infrastructure. But none of it, not the shelter, not the robes, not the fire, could protect against what was coming next. And what came next wasn't the cold. Here is the part that cuts deepest. By the late 1800s, the systematic destruction of the bison herds, deliberate, government-sanctioned slaughter that reduced an estimated 30 to 60 million animals to fewer than 1,000 in just 3 decades, didn't just threaten plains economies. It was calculated. General Philip Sheridan stated explicitly to the Texas legislature in 1875 that bison hunters were doing more to end indigenous resistance than the military could achieve in 30 years. Remove the bison, and you remove the hides. Remove the hides, and people freeze. The shelters, the clothing, the food, everything collapsed at once. It wasn't a coincidence. It was policy. And yet, the knowledge survived. Not in institutions, not in archives, in people, in grandmothers who remembered, in hands that still knew how to work a hide, in oral traditions that carried engineering principles across generations without ever writing a single word down. That survival of knowledge against deliberate, systematic erasure might be the most remarkable survival story of all. We build smart homes and call ourselves advanced. We patent insulation technology and put it in glossy catalogs. And somewhere on the northern plains, 1,000 years before any of that, a woman was engineering the same principles from sticks, sinew, and skin, keeping her children alive through a winter that would kill most of us by morning. Maybe sophistication was never about complexity. Maybe it was always about this, paying close enough attention to the world that the world lets you stay in it.